Tonight, we're tracking major developments reshaping our dining experiences and political landscape. First, are your favorite restaurants about to start counting carbon? We examine the growing trend of carbon emission labels on menus and whether they actually influence what diners order. Then, President Trump stirs controversy with an AI-generated image of himself dressed as the Pope, just days after attending Pope Francis's funeral, and as cardinals prepare to elect a new pontiff. And finally, is Mexico inadvertently funding the border wall? We dive into the administration's bold claims of record-low border crossings and how cooperation from Mexico is being framed as fulfilling a controversial campaign promise. Let's begin. Could your next restaurant menu show you more than just calories and prices? Research suggests restaurants may soon widely adopt carbon emission labeling next to meals, though it's not yet mandatory as of May 2025. Some restaurants, like Panera Bread, have already voluntarily implemented carbon footprint labels, using their distinctive Cool Food Meals badge to highlight dishes with lower environmental impact. But the big question remains, do these labels actually influence what diners order? That's the foundation behind a new push to make restaurants more transparent about their environmental impact. The concept aligns with global efforts to combat climate change, given that food production accounts for nearly a third of all greenhouse gas emissions. Research from the University of Würzburg has found mixed results. In eye-tracking studies, most diners paid minimal attention to carbon emission information, dedicating only about 5% of their attention to these labels. Many viewed the information out of curiosity, but didn't factor it into their ordering decisions. Despite this initial disappointment, a separate study published in PLOS Climate found that menu design can significantly reduce the carbon footprint of dining choices. When climate-friendly options were set as defaults, emissions dropped by an impressive 33%. Color-coded labels reduced emissions by 13.5%. So why aren't these labels mandatory yet? Industry experts point to the complex challenge of standardizing measurements across diverse menus and supply chains. Calculating a dish's carbon footprint requires accounting for ingredient sourcing, transportation, preparation methods, and even how the land was used to grow ingredients. Software companies like Eternity are stepping in to help restaurants with this complex task, evaluating emissions from farm to fork to give diners a complete picture of their meal's environmental impact. But there is some good news in the research. About 20% of consumers do carefully inspect carbon emission information for every menu item, suggesting there's a growing segment of diners who can be influenced by this data. Some restaurants have gone beyond simple labels. Otarian, a vegetarian restaurant chain, shows diners exactly how many kilograms of carbon they save by choosing their Tex-Mex veggie burger over a beef alternative. They even offer carbon karma credits that customers can exchange for free menu items. Restaurant chains like Burger King and Starbucks are also exploring eco-friendly measures throughout their supply chains, showing a broader industry shift towards sustainability. Research also reveals an important finding for restaurant owners concerned about customer backlash. People who don't care about carbon emissions information aren't irritated by its presence on menus. This suggests restaurants have little to lose by adding these indicators. Experts suggest that as consumer awareness grows, carbon labeling could become more standardized in the future, especially as diners increasingly seek sustainable options. The question now, will your favorite restaurant voluntarily adopt these labels, or will regulators eventually step in to make them mandatory? For now, you'll likely only see them at eco-conscious establishments, but that could change as the climate conversation continues to heat up. Up next, President Trump creates a stir with an AI-generated image depicting himself as the Pope. President Trump has sparked controversy by posting an AI-generated image of himself dressed as the Pope, just days after attending Pope Francis's funeral, and less than a week before cardinals gather to elect a new pontiff. The image, which shows Trump seated in ornate papal garments, appeared late Friday night on his Truth Social platform without any caption or comment. The White House official accounts later reposted the image on multiple social platforms. The timing has drawn criticism, as the Catholic Church is still in its official 9-day mourning period following Pope Francis's death on April 21st at age 88. Many Catholics have expressed concern about the timing, noting that the church is still in mourning and that the process of selecting a new pope is considered deeply sacred. Critics suggest the post trivializes what should be a solemn moment. The New York State Catholic Conference, which represents Catholic bishops in the state, issued a statement criticizing the post, saying, "There is nothing clever or funny about this image, Mr. President. We just buried our beloved Pope Francis, and the cardinals are about to enter a solemn conclave to elect a new successor of St. Peter. Do not mock us." The controversial image comes just days after the president made comments about the papal succession that some viewed as inappropriate.
I'd like to be Pope. That would be my number one choice.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt defended the president, noting that Trump flew to Italy to pay his respects at Pope Francis's funeral and has been a staunch champion for Catholics and religious liberty. The timing is particularly sensitive as the 133 cardinal electors prepare to begin the conclave on May 7th to select the next leader of the world's 1.4 billion Catholics. Vatican experts note that the conclave is an intensely private and prayerful process, with cardinals spending this time in deep reflection rather than campaigning, making it fundamentally different from political elections. This isn't the first time Trump has shared AI-generated images on social media. In February, both the president and official White House accounts posted an AI image of Trump wearing a crown after the administration moved to eliminate New York City's congestion pricing program. The image has generated strong reactions across social media, with supporters defending it as humor and critics calling it inappropriate, given the solemnity of the papal transition. Senator Lindsey Graham added to the controversy with his own social media post. "I was excited to hear that President Trump is open to the idea of being the next pope. This would truly be a dark horse candidate, but I would ask the papal conclave and Catholic faithful to keep an open mind about this possibility." Political analysts see this as a continuation of the president's unconventional communication style, which supporters view as refreshing authenticity, while critics consider it lacking the decorum expected of the office. The Vatican has not officially responded to the image, though Italian media reports that the post has been a topic of discussion during the Vatican's daily conclave briefing. Coming up next, we examine President Trump's recent statements about his administration's border security achievements. President Trump is touting what he calls historic achievements in border security during his first 100 days back in office. In recent speeches, he has claimed record-low illegal border crossings.
"We've set all-time records for the lowest number of illegal border crossings ever recorded." Think of that, ever recorded. The number of illegal border crossers released into the United States is down.
The president went on to emphasize just how significant this reduction has been, using striking statistics to make his point.
Listen to this, please. 99.999%. Think of that, 99.999. 3 people got in. 3.
The president has maintained a zero-tolerance approach to border security, even joking about his dissatisfaction with those who reportedly managed to cross illegally.
And I got angry as hell at Tom Homan. How did you allow 3, Tom?
Tom Homan, the former acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement during Trump's first term and a key advisor on border security in his current administration, has been instrumental in implementing these policies. In recent interviews, Homan has addressed one of the most controversial aspects of the Trump border strategy, the border wall with Mexico, and the question of who's paying for it.
Trump said Mexico will pay for the wall. They have in a roundabout way, have they not? Putting 10,000 military on the northern and southern border, taking the action they did remain in Mexico. They didn't have to do that, they're doing it. Putting military on the southern border, have moved illegal immigration to a record low.
Homan claims this cooperation has resulted in significant financial savings for the United States, effectively offsetting the costs of border wall construction.
We're saving millions of dollars every day on detention, transportation, removal proceedings. We've more than made up for the cost of that wall because of the actions of Mexico. So is Mexico helping build that wall? Yeah, because we're saving so much money.
Homan concluded with a definitive statement on whether Mexico is fulfilling President Trump's controversial campaign promise.
Millions of dollars a day that we can afford to build that wall. So actually, yes, they're helping to build a wall.
Critics of the administration have questioned the accuracy of these statistics, pointing to the complexity of measuring illegal border crossings and the distinction between apprehensions and actual crossings. Immigration policy experts note that several factors could be contributing to the reported decline, including Mexico's cooperation with stricter enforcement, the continuation of the Remain in Mexico policy, and increased presence of military personnel along both the northern and southern borders of Mexico. The deployment of 10,000 Mexican troops along their borders represents a significant shift in bilateral cooperation on immigration enforcement. This approach essentially extends U.S. border enforcement deep into Mexico and Central America. The administration claims that these measures have not only reduced crossings, but have created substantial financial savings for American taxpayers by reducing the need for detention facilities, transportation costs, and legal proceedings for migrants. Some policy analysts note that if these numbers are accurate, they would represent an unprecedented reduction in illegal immigration. However, questions remain about whether this approach addresses the root causes of migration or simply redirects the flow. human rights concerns have also been raised, particularly regarding asylum seekers who may be prevented from exercising their legal right to request protection. While border security is important, advocates stress that legitimate asylum seekers shouldn't be turned away without due process, as international law recognizes the right to seek asylum from persecution. The administration maintains that legal pathways for immigration remain open, but that strict enforcement is necessary to maintain border security and protect American jobs and communities. This virtual wall strategy represents a shift from physical barrier construction to what some analysts are calling an externalization of U.S. border enforcement that extends deep into Mexico and Central America. A key component of this approach is the reinstatement of the Remain in Mexico policy, officially known as the Migrant Protection Protocols, which requires asylum seekers to wait in Mexico while their cases are processed in U.S. immigration courts. Economic analysts point out that while there may be short-term savings on immigration enforcement, the broader economic impact includes reduced labor migration, changes in remittance flows, and potential disruptions to cross-border trade and tourism. President Trump is expected to further detail his border security achievements in an upcoming address to Congress, where he will likely face questions about the sustainability of these policies and their long-term impact on U.S.-Mexico relations.